winsome whistling wind, let me listen in. I chased you through these trees and tasted your tender breeze. You're on the tip of my tongue, but we've only begun.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Home Slice. Welcome back to the Farm EDC series. For those of you who are just catching up, I'm out on the beautiful property of my mother and father-in-law here in Southwest Washington. This is sort of the campfire pit where we'll go on a walk in the morning and then make a campfire. I've come in from New Zealand because I'm trying to help take care of my family. My father-in-law was recently in an accident and lost one of his fingers, and so he's not quite able to keep up the work on the farm here. It's a big farm, 30,000 chickens, 100 cows, and so I've been coming and helping him run all of that stuff. Most of you will know that, so let me get into the body of the video here. I just wanted to take a moment and show you guys, because when I travel, I always scratch my head like, which sort of sharpening gear do I prioritize bringing? And you know, how much is enough for a travel setup? I do that when I go out. If I go out on a hike where I'm going to be out for a few days, I do that if I'm flying to the US. You just sort of have these differing levels of how easy it is to bring things. And when it's not easy, what do you end up taking? And I think I've hit on a setup that I'm probably the most pleased that I've ever been with it as a mobile setup. So I figured that might be worth sharing. Some of the gear will be familiar, but anyway, it's all stashed here in my Carhartt hat. I got a Carhartt hat because Danny borrowed one of my beanies on the plane to fly here, and then we forgot it, which was unfortunate. And then I was like, do I really want a Carhartt hat? Because I don't like doing things that seem kind of trendy. But then I don't even know what's trendy right now. Anyway, we're on a rabbit trail. But in the end, I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. I just need a hat. So I bought a Carhartt hat. There you go. Okay, piece of gear number 1 that I bought is the WorkSharp Field Sharpener. The Field Sharpener by WorkSharp. I'm sure all of you guys have already heard of it, but it's awesome setup. Coarse diamond electroplated on one side, finer diamond electroplated on the other. The diamond comes a bit chunky, but they all do. And these electroplated stones, they can be difficult to deburr off of at times, but they leave such an aggressive edge. That, like, oh man, it's so rare for another stone to come close to the aggression of these things. So really like those. It's got a ceramic rod. The ceramic rod has a few different settings. It has a coarse setting, which is ridged with lines, if you're not familiar with this device. Those lines are sort of designed that ridges come up and down, and the idea is if you've got burr hanging off there, as you move across, it will catch them like laterally and rip off or shear off those pieces of burr. I think you should use that a little bit sparingly because you can chip off more of the edge than you intend to, but it's a pretty cool feature. They've got this ridge, which can be used for like hooks if you're sharpening a fishing hook, or I actually really found this useful for sharpening a serrated knife. You can get the ridge in there and kind of round over the ridge with that little inset piece, and that worked really well for me. There's also one here you can use for serrations. And then, of course, you got a full smooth side ceramic rod. Ceramic rods are great. They, I would say, are not probably the absolute best thing for deburring fully off of a stone, but they minimize burr pretty well, and the edge comes off really aggressive if you hit it at the right angle on a ceramic rod, considering how fine it is. And it can strip off a larger burr and clean up most of it. Now, if you've got a little bit of burr left, that's not really a problem with this thing because they've got a piece of leather here. At the point I'm at with my stropping right now, not that I know everything, I very much am in the middle of learning. I prefer smooth leather to the rough side of the leather, and they've put the rough side out here with some chromium oxide paste. Chromium oxide pastes are okay, like the thing that comes on here is okay, these green pastes, but I would say they don't last very long. They tend to load up really quickly with shaved metal particles and then not cut the steel in your edge very much at all. Like the abrasive kind of stops working as an abrasive. That said, it's not really a problem. You can take like a piece of sandpaper if you want to fine that out, or you can take a utility razor blade and just scrape the chromium oxide mostly off, or take a pencil eraser and erase most of it out. And then when you're done with that, you could spray this with whichever abrasive you want. So this is what I bought to try out. Overall, I've been very pleased. I can definitely get a finer, nicer edge on my full collection of stones at home. But on the go, this leaves a really aggressive edge, and it's pretty easy with these extras to deburr it to a level where you get a pretty good lasting edge. Speaking of deburring, the other two pieces of equipment that I brought to use are these. I bought them from Grid-O-Matic. I think they're aluminum plates with leather on them from, I think, a TSProf. This one is sprayed with 1 micron Stroppy Stuff compound, which is my favorite compound right now. This one, I stuffed a little non-slip pad in there so you can use them on a bench top. You can just sort of set them down and do your stropping. This one is loaded up with a 0.25 micron diamond Stroppy Stuff compound. My second favorite presently stropping compound. So these guys will take the edge from this WorkSharp and get it really crisp. It's fun to have a couple little strops that you can either bring the edge back with, or you can use to sort of crisp up that edge a little bit more after you've gone fine with it. That was all I anticipated having here on this trip to Washington. But lo and behold, when I went and met up with my friend Daniel in Maryland, he gave me one of these fold out diamond sharpeners. It's got 600 grit on one side and 400 on the other. And I would say the one downside of this is that if you want to take and go stone to knife rather than knife to stone, it's a little bit hard to get around these like angle guides, and you know, not everybody wants to go at 20 degrees, I guess, is maybe another thing that could be said. And it's sort of scrubbing can be a little bit challenging with this thing. It's kind of a little bit on the bulkier side. It's not bad, but these guys, these sharpeners, you can really, if you want to go stone to knife, if you're doing a big blade, or if you just want to go fast and kind of these guys are really, really helpful. I think DMT makes a product like this called the Diafold. I think Daniel ended up just buying one that was sort of like a Chinese brand, but I've been really pleased with it. It's very, very helpful for reprofiling on the go. So most of my knives, probably all of my knives that I've been carrying, I'll take this thing. I'll get the sort of edge visually that I want and grind the 400 grit edge on both sides, and then flip to the 600 grit and get that edge on both sides. And then once I'm done with that, I'll often do a little brush up on this finer diamond on the WorkSharp Field Sharpener. And depending on the knife, I will do edge leading or maybe edge trailing strokes, depending on how I feel like it's deburred already. Okay, so I realized I just said that offhandedly and didn't explain myself for those of you interested in the greater sharpening process. I will go edge leading if I'm having trouble getting rid of a burr because the steel seems soft and pliable and malleable and keeps wrapping around the apex of the edge. The reason for this is because the mechanics are more conducive to shearing off a burr when you're cutting at the stone. So I will do that if I'm having trouble getting rid of a burr, even on the fine diamond. And if I can't get rid of it fully or mostly using that, I may even increase just a couple degrees and micro bevel it with edge leading strokes on the ceramic rod. If I find that the steel is hard enough that it will actually shear most of the burr off from just the stones alone before I get to the ceramic rod, then I'll usually do alternating gentle edge trailing strokes, because that kind of trails out that deburred edge to a really, really fine triangular point. And that's the difference between whether I use edge leading or edge trailing in my mobile setup. On this ceramic rod to minimize the burr, and then I will hit it on my 1 and 0.25 micron leather strops. These are really stiff, really stiff strops, so I'll just clean it up a little bit on that. And so far, it's like every knife comes off shaving and kind of cursive slicing paper pretty well. The AUS 10 on the cold steel's probably left a little bit on the softer side, so I have some difficulty, but I probably haven't sharpened through all the overheated metal yet, to be honest. So I think it's going to be fine. And just handling the cold steel Airlight, the edge felt pretty sticky, so the last edge I put on there was starting to get like firm and clean. So yeah, anyway, it's pretty lightweight. If if you're hiking the Pacific Crest Trail or something like that, like a long distance hike, and you wanted the most lightweight possible setup, you could probably get by with one of these with like a medium and a fine. And one of these, if you wanted, you could probably even go a smaller, like 4-inch one from like a KME or something like that. You'd have a really lightweight setup that you could still get a crisp enough edge to do outdoors work with. But for what I'm doing here and my enjoyment of EDC, it's kind of nice to have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 step progression. I'm such a sharpening nerd. Anyway, that's what I've been using to sharpen. I think of from like the worst edge I've ever sharpened to like the most glorious edge I've ever sharpened. The average edge that comes out of this setup, I'd probably put it a 6.5 or a 7. So I'm quite pleased with that. And when you shoot for your 9 or your 9.5, you want to like sit down and have your bucket of gear to really focus in on that. And I just haven't been on that mode. I've been working on the farm, trying to get work done with these knives. So I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you enjoyed this mini series on my farm life EDC. I hope you have a great day. I'll chuck up a video you can check out, but for the rest of you, I'll say peace out from the home slice. You guys take care. Bye.